I'm Anthony.
And I'm Aaron.
And the Rams are 6-0. NFL record. They're the only team. They already had the record. They were the only team that had gone 6-0 9 times in their history. And after last Sunday, they made it 10 times in their history, expanding that record. So, go Rams! All righty.
So starting out 6-0, that's how many Super Bowls?
3.
Oh, okay. That's all I wanted to know.
Hey,
30%.
you know what? Shut your face. No, because this is the 10th. So it might be 40%. So shut your face hole. All right?
All right.
All right. Yeah. I got to put this on outdoor mode. That'll increase the volume. Guys, I'm working on a mic at...
You want to start out with news first, or do you want to start out with...
Yeah, well, let's start with news first. We'll start with news first. Let's go personal. So, guys, I know there's been some... I know there's been some complaints about the volume. One of the things that I am going to be doing is getting a mic, hopefully for Christmas, maybe my birthday, which is in March. So I'm hoping that will clear up by next year. But you just got to bear with me for one more season.
How old are you going to be, old man?
Yeah, I'm going to be the big 4-0. I'm going to be 4-0 in my life.
4-0.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So news, Eric, go.
So news, okay. So something that irked me just a little bit this past week, actually, and that was that Nick Bosa from Ohio State University has decided that he is going to withdraw from school to rehab his injury better and focus more on the draft, okay? This is the way college football is going, people. It is going the way of, hey, if I'm not going to play the national championship game, which Ohio State is ranked second in the country right now, so they have a good shot at getting into the playoffs and playing for the national championship game against Alabama. As we all know, Alabama is going to be there. So here is what I am thinking. Why is Nick Bosa eligible for the draft? He just withdrew from school. Okay, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I think the NFL should come up with a rule that says if you withdraw from school, you are not eligible for the draft. It's that simple.
Well,
So, in my opinion, what Nick Bosa should do, he should still get the best treatment he can while he still technically has insurance. And I don't look at this as an insurance view because unless he's still insured under his parents, which I'm assuming he is, okay, he can still get it from Ohio State and still rehab at Ohio State. Just declare him out for the year. That's all you have to do. You don't have to say, oh, hey, you need to withdraw so you can get ready for the draft. You can still do that at Ohio State. They're not going to look down on you and say, oh, no, you have to play. All you have to say is BS. So, in my opinion, if I were Roger Goodell, A, the NFL wouldn't be in the state it is. B, I'd be better looking. And C, I would come out with a rule right now and say Nick Bosa is now ineligible for the draft. You do not withdraw from school and think that you can just get by and go to the NFL. It don't work like that. You complete your season. Injuries is one thing. I get that. And I know guys now sit out bowl games, which, whatever, fine, great. You're not playing for national championship, so sit out the bowl game. Who cares? Just a bowl game. So, why do this to your team now? So that's just a little bit of my beef with what's going on with Nick Bosa. What's your take on it?
Well, my take is, does character matter or not? Because
no, not anymore.
I mean, to me, if I'm a coach, I'm not drafting Bosa in the first 3 rounds.
Well, Bosa's going to go top 5.
He shouldn't. You're going to tell me that if some stud at another university ends up with like 19 sacks this year playing the same position, you're still going to go Bosa?
Well, now you're talking to somebody with more than 2 brain cells.
Okay. This is true. This is true.
All right, so this is also coming to where, unfortunately, this is where the combine is going to come into fruition for Nick Bosa, where he's going to need it. Because they're going to want to see how he responds with his chest injury or his abdominal injury, or you could call it a sports hernia, however you want to phrase it, and how he reacts to.
You want to know what I call it?
Drill.
You know what I call it?
A waste of time.
No. I call it a strained right vaginal muscle.
Yeah, I got another word for it too, but this is a family show.
Yeah, I'm keeping it somewhat biologically clean. Look, I don't want a guy that sits out a season over an injury that shouldn't keep you out all year. Period. I have no interest in it. Not to mention, when push comes to shove and the going gets tough, it looks like Bosa's going to get going. And I want a guy that's not going to get leaving the team, but he's going to stand on that front line and take one for the team.
Yeah, basically all it comes down to is he wants to get paid. I get your future. I get it, okay? More than anything, I get that you want to secure your future. Le'Veon Bell is doing it right now. He's trying to get to free agency.
Le'Veon Bell's a pro. It's a different situation.
It is different.
You're a college player, and how many times have we seen big-time college athletes go pro and look like Jane, not Tarzan? So, I'm sorry, but I remember Bosworth. And right now, Bosa feels, looks, and it just reeks of Bosworth. I wasn't high on him anyway. So, bring on Boz 2.0. I hope he goes to the 49ers or Packers, to be honest with you. Because he ain't going to be a threat. Huh?
I hope he doesn't. I don't want to see him in green and yellow chasing down Trubisky.
Well, that's just it. He's not going to be chasing down anybody.
Yeah, he's going to be on the IR.
Yeah, grabbing his right vaginal muscle again. So let's call a spade here. Look, I have no patience for that. Eric, I agree with you. If I'm Roger Goodell, the rule would have already been in place. If you don't complete school, you don't get a contract.
Well, complete school meaning complete your school season.
No.
Okay, none of this. I'm withdrawing from the
No.
university.
No, you misunderstood. You misunderstood. I don't even want juniors. If you graduate early, feel free to enter the draft. The whole purpose of going to college, I thought, was to graduate.
Not anymore.
Well, then it's up to then it's up to the adults to start acting like the adults and quit letting the kids run the candy shop. Right?
But hold on. You're saying that if you weren't all world class athlete and you left after your junior year, who's to say you can't return to school in a couple of years after you got paid and still finish your education?
Hey, guys do it all the time. Emmitt Smith did it. I get it.
Right. Yeah, Vince Carter did it.
I get it.
Vince Carter flew to North Carolina for a playoff game, okay? And everybody questioned, like, you're doing this during the playoffs. Eventually, his team that he played for, I believe he was still in the Raptors at the time, but they lost the game, but, he went out there and he still graduated with this team. I know a couple of people, especially some UCLA Bruins who've done that too. Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't really put some names on it right
No, look, I'm saying if it's me.
It does happen.
I know it does. But it doesn't happen more often than not. And the biggest problem is these athletes, they do this big cash out. How many times have we seen an athlete get this big payout? Even the old timers who claim they didn't get paid a lot, they still got paid more than the average working man, especially in the 80s and the late 70s. Okay? It wasn't I was just reading. In 1986, Dan Marino signed a 6-year extension for $9 million. Okay?
Yeah.
That was in 86. So they got payouts. And a lot of them saw the big checks. And I get it. But the problem is, they never take into consideration that in 4 to 5 years, their career's over, they're 30 years old, and they have 35 years left of working life to go and no career and no degree. And they blow through their money and then they end up on the streets or broke.
It happens a lot more than you hear about.
It happens way too often. So it's up to the adults to run the candy shop and say, guys, look, unless you give me a guarantee, we'll make it a part of your contract that you're going to go back and graduate. Hell, we'll even pay for your last year of school. But you've got to go back to school. Otherwise, you're not eligible for the draft. That's it. I've had that position for a long time because I value education. I know what a college degree can get you. So,
okay. Let's move on. I have another piece of news that I want to talk about really quick.
Okay.
So, Anthony, I want you to stand up right now and take a bow.
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead, do it. Go ahead, do it.
All right.
All right. You called the Chargers 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You called the Chargers of Los Angeles, has come out saying that it's not working out for them. Well, shocking. Like we didn't see this coming. Okay? So they play in a 30,000 seat stadium. Mm-hmm. The next closest, smallest stadium seats 60.
Wow.
They're trying to sell PSL licenses or personal C licenses or PSLs to their fan base, and they have had to come down from their number for revenue from $400 million to $150 million.
Wow.
Dude, they're struggling. They're struggling, and they may as well not build a stadium anytime soon and play as a tenant and wait for Oakland to move, because
I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
It's looking more likely they're going to go north or they're going to go south. But they're not staying. They're not staying in LA for the long term.
No, they lost this fight a long time ago.
I'm not sure if San Diego would welcome them back.
I think they would welcome the Chargers back, but Spanos would have to sell the team.
Well, I don't see Spanos selling the team. By the way, just quickly, Dean Spanos, he was 95 years old. He passed away in the last week, but his kids are actually running the team. So the original owner of the Chargers, of the Spanos family, died not too long ago. Mm-hmm. And so I won't be surprised if they're out of LA in the next 2 to 3 years.
Well, I called it.
Okay, so you called it. I have one more piece of news before we get into games. The Jacksonville Jaguars, no, I'm not going to talk about their pitiful game against the Cowboys, but their owner, Shad Khan, has withdrawn his name from buying Wembley Stadium in London. So the Jaguars are not going to be moving to London in the next 5 years or anywhere in the near future.
Wow.
Yeah.
Looks like
I thought actually that was big news, and that he withdrew his name. It didn't really say why, or if just the stadium wasn't up to date to their standards or whatnot. There really wasn't much information on why he withdrew, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere. But yeah, this means that Jacksonville will stay in Jacksonville. The Jaguars will stay in Jacksonville.
Well, they should. I'm actually really glad to hear that. I actually
yeah, I am too. I really did not want to see one team only in Europe. I really don't think I want to see even 2 teams or 4 teams in Europe unless it really takes off. But that's for another day. It looks like it's going to be maybe 10+ years before that even comes back up again.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it stays there. All right. One other news that I want to mention, moving on. I want my thoughts and prayers, and all of our thoughts and prayers, to go out to the Seattle Seahawks family. An icon passed away. I'm not a fan of the Seahawks. You guys know that, but Paul Allen was a good man. He was a good owner, and a lot of us probably wish we had an owner like Paul Allen. So hearts and prayers and thoughts and condolences go out to the family of the Paul Allen family, and for that matter, our fellow NFL family in the Seattle Seahawks. You guys had a great one, and I'm really sorry that you lost them.
Absolutely. He also owned the basketball team, the Portland Trail Blazers. He was part owner also of the Seattle soccer team.
Yeah.
Seattle Sounders, I want to say.
Yeah,
maybe.
Something like that.
Hypothetically speaking, Anthony, the Powerball and Mega Ball are combined over $1 billion. So if I buy the Seahawks, are you going to run the Seahawks with me?
Okay, first of all, that's not even okay. All right, I'd rather you buy the Coyotes and let's figure this thing out here. But yes, let me be the head coach, and we're going back to the old unis, just so you know.
Sure, no problem. You okay with beating up the Rams twice a year?
I might accidentally lose to the Rams twice a year, and that'll be our only defeat. No, hey, you got to do what you got to do. I know the Ramley doesn't want to hear this right now. They're like, shut up, guys. Not even funny. It's like me asking if I bought the Vikings, would you run the team, you jerk? All right.
Well, at least we get a dome.
Yeah, yeah, we'll be in. No, I'm building an outdoor stadium. Hell with that.
Oh, whatever.
All right. Let's get into the picks. Now, we first of all, guys, I had an incredible week. I went 11-4. I destroyed it this week. And that's pretty good considering I went 6-9 the week before, so I need a rebound. We already covered the Philadelphia Eagles-Giants game, so we're not going to necessarily go into that. So, Eric, didn't we cover Tampa Bay, Atlanta?
Yeah, we covered the Eagles-Giants.
Okay, Tampa Bay and Atlanta. I want to say one thing here. Falcons are the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NFC. Go on the road, destroy them. Get them at home, buckle up, Buttercup. It's about to be a football game. Calvin Ridley was killing it, and then he got injured, which cost me my fantasy team big time. But I lost this week. I'm a little bitter. Once again, I can't pick the starting quarterback to save my life. But every friggin' week, I pick the worst one. You know what? I'm just running with Goff the rest of the year, so frig it. We'll see what happens. I keep having people asking me for Melvin Gordon, too, for like a wide receiver. I'm like, shut up and get out of here. One friggin' wide receiver. Somebody offered me OBJ for Melvin Gordon.
Not a bad deal.
It's not, but I don't need wide receivers. I'm loaded there.
Right.
So, anyway, I digress. Look, a couple of my takeaways from this game is Matt Ryan. If you guys don't think Matt Ryan's a good quarterback, you have no business announcing football games, analyzing football games, or even being a critic. You're an idiot. The guy is an outstanding quarterback. And those weapons, if they can get consistent and run the ball a little bit more, although Coleman's out for the year, or at least for 8 weeks, man, the Falcons have some real firepower on offense, but they've got to figure out this defensive side of the ball. There's no way you give Jameis Winston that kind of a day when he's not even a good quarterback. I wouldn't even put him in my top. He wouldn't be my backup right now if I had a football team. He'd be my third stringer. That's how little I think of Jameis Winston. But he had himself a day against that D. If you're a Tampa Bay fan, you've got weapons on offense. You figure out that quarterback position and shore up the D, which is no easy task. You have yourself a football team too. E, take it away.
Yeah, all I was going to say was I knew Winston would have a good day. How good of a day? I mean, 395 yards and 4 touchdowns. A couple more with 2 interceptions. But what I want you guys to do is, if you're a fan of either team, you haven't seen the last play of the game, Google it, and you'll be amazed at how close Tampa Bay was winning this game. It was unbelievable. They just needed the football to bounce their way the right way, and they would have scored on the last play. Very simple. You know, they lateraled it a couple of times, and unfortunately, Mike Evans couldn't get the ball all the way to Sean Jackson, who was wide open on the sideline. The ball bounced in front of him, bounced out of bounds, and Jackson had a clear path to the end zone.
Yeah, I saw that.
Alas, it took an Atlanta bounce, and they were to win. You know, there's no sense in really talking much about Matt Ryan. We already know what kind of quarterback he is. They were just able to outscore the Buccaneers, and again, they have no secondary. You're gonna hear me say this day in and day out every time we have this show. So, you know, the Falcons took care of what they needed to do at home, and they just need to be able to score a ton of points just to be able to make up for their defense.
Yeah. Okay, the upset game of the week. Washington at home against Carolina. I did not pick Washington. I know you picked Carolina as well, but I think you did at least. The Redskins.
Yeah, I did pick Carolina. I thought they would roll over the Redskins.
I told you, man, that offensive line is legit, and Kirk Cousins light. Alex Smith played a really good game. I liked what I saw from Alex. But I liked more what I saw from the Redskins' offensive line, and their defense really showed up. Makes me wonder if they tanked against Drew Brees for the sake of a record. Because how do you look that good for 3 weeks, or 5 weeks, then look that bad, or 4 weeks, then look that bad, and then all of a sudden look good again? I don't know. It's a little fishy, but wouldn't be the first time somebody pulled a prank like that. Just ask Brett Favre.
Yeah, no kidding. Listen, Adrian Peterson still ran hard, 97 yards. Devin Fudge just decided to show up. I'm going to tell you something about the Washington Redskins. They're 1-1 in their last 2 games, 2-2 in their last 4 games, 3-3 in their last 6 games, 4-4 in their last 8 games, 5-5 in their last 10 games, 6-6 in their last 12 games, 7-7 in their last 14 games, 10-1 in their last 21 games. You wanted me to keep going? They're 38-1 in their last 57 games.
Jeez, they're 500.
Pick the Redskins up. Pick the Cowboys this week against the Redskins.
Yeah, right. They're a 500 football club.
They're hot. They're cold. They're hot. They're cold. They're hot. They're cold. Washington's tough to. Washington is a tough team right now to really decipher because you just don't know which Washington you're going to get. Are you going to get the Redskins against the Colts, or are you going to get the Redskins against the Saints? Well, pretty much the same 2 teams. Or are you going to get the Redskins
against the Packers,
the Cardinals? Or are you going to get the Redskins against the Packers? Exactly.
Yeah.
Which Redskins team are you getting? I'll tell you this much: the Redskins keep going hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. Bye bye, Jay Gruden. He's gone.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction right now. Unless the Redskins win the division, even if they make the playoffs as the 6th wild card team, and they win a wild card game and lose in the 2nd round, Gruden's gone. Gruden's gone.
Yeah, I would have to think so. Daniel Snyder is not about to keep playing this 500 game. The East right now is prime picking. Nobody's going to run away with it. The Giants are at the bottom. It's going to take 1 or 2 years with a good quarterback to get them back on top. All Dallas needs is a wide receiver or 2, although you wouldn't know it with what Cole Beasley did last week.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles, they're still there, but they're not playing their best football right now. The East is prime pick, and if the Redskins don't jump on top of it, they have all talent on offense, and they have a very underratedly good defense.
Well, Philadelphia's problem is they're playing like they won the Super Bowl last year. So, and they got to clean that up. Like, Seattle and Oakland wasn't even a game. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if the Seahawks knew that Paul Allen was on his way out because they played inspired football in that game. That's not the Seattle team we're going to see all year long. That's not the Seattle team we've seen at all this year. Now, that's not even the Oakland team we've seen all year. So I don't know what the deal was with Seattle this week, but they opened up the whole can of whoop butt and unleashed it on the Oakland Raiders. Now, if I'm John Gruden, and I respect John Gruden and I like John Gruden, you got to have a coming to Jesus moment with your football team. And here's what I would do. I'd call my team in and I'd say, guys, I'm sorry. I am sorry that I didn't make an effort to sign Khalil Mack. My thought process was that money that we would spend on Khalil Mack, we could spend on other players to come in and make us better consistently right away. And I was thinking in terms of next year because I believed in the men in this locker room this year with or without Khalil Mack. I am sorry that I didn't communicate it to you. I am sorry that I put us in this position. But moving forward, I'm going to give you everything I've got. And all I ask in return is you give me one shot. You give me one effort the rest of this year. And if you don't like the product by the end of the year, I will give you the best trade opportunity of your lifetime, or I will give you the biggest payout that you ever thought possible, considering you want to stay if you're a contract guy. You give me what you've got, and I will deliver. Because right now, this is on me, and I'm sorry. And I would give the guys off on Monday, and I would say, I'll see you guys on Tuesday. You get a day off. We're flying out tonight. Take the day to think about it, and let's come back to work on Tuesday. That's the way I would approach this. I think if Gruden does that, I think that the Raiders have a really good shot at probably ending the year 7-9, 6-10. Because right now, this is a 1-15 ball club. So that's my fix for Oakland. There's not much to say there. Seattle played inspired, and considering what transpired over the course of the week, I'm glad Paul Allen got that one on the way out. Eric, you take it away.
Yeah, really not much to say about this game. Look, one team played inspired football, the other team played uninspired football. Man, if I were in London and I went to this game, I would demand my money back. I'd be like, listen, I came to see two football teams, I saw one.
Yeah.
That's it.
No kidding. Jets at Colts. Look, second week in a row I'm saying this about Sam Darnold, but the kid's looking good. The Jets are looking solid. That was not a bad football team they beat up on. I did pick the Jets to beat the Colts, but and if I didn't on the show, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the picks that I did with my dad Sunday morning.
You picked the Jets because I said that Hilton was out.
That's right. Without T.Y. Hilton, I switched my pick. I did. But I just look, the Jets are playing the type of football. I remember this last year with the Rams. Everyone's like, well, the Rams haven't played anyone. Well, they're beating the people they're supposed to beat then, right? And that's what the Jets are kind of doing. With the exception of the Brown game, they're beating teams they're supposed to beat. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to play over the next few weeks. But right now I have to say they're playing better football than I expected. And tip my hat to Sam Darnold. I know I gave him a hard time. I wasn't going to make the guy a Hall of Famer after week 1, and I'm not going to make the Hall of Famer after his first 2 years. But if he continues down this pace, he's going to be a pretty good quarterback and a good find for the Jets, Jets. Indy, look, if you're a Colt fan, you got nothing to worry about. This is going to be a tough year. You knew that. I even said that. But it's the foundation that Frank Reich is building that's going to benefit you in the long run. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, in regards to this game, Jason Myers, have yourself a day, young man. 5 field goals, 4 extra points, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he hit them all. Well, you know what to say about this? You know, the Jets played really well. Darnold played really well. You know, there's really not much to say in the defensive end, but the Jets stopped the Colts when they had to. Yes, the Colts had a garbage time touchdown and went for the onside kick. But you're right. The Colts offense is going to be okay. They get T.Y. Hilton back next week or for their next game. So, you know, Chester Rogers came to play, and Eric Ebron was all over the field again, along with Eric Swoop. So, you know, Luck had a big day. He had over 350 yards passing. The Jets were just better. They were able to convert a lot more opportunities into scores, and that's the name of the game. You just outscore your opponent.
Yeah.
You know, Quincy Nunwa had a high ankle sprain. He's out for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So look for a lot of Robbie Anderson and Jermaine Kearse. Those 2 guys are going to get a lot of play, and you know they have a tough defense they're going up against. You know. Not as tough as last year, but a tougher defense going up next year. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond going into Minnesota. But, you know, the Jets are semi-exciting to watch. I never thought I'd say that, but they are.
Yeah. Minnesota at home against Arizona, and the streak continues. They're talking about firing Wilkes already out here. And they should.
They're going to after the Broncos game.
I think they are. I think he was such an abysmal decision in the process. I didn't understand the hire to begin with. I felt like it was rushed. I felt like it was – I don't feel like they did homework at all. And there were coaches out there at the college ranks that could have done better. There were – I'm not going to get into it. The Cardinals aren't worth the time or the effort. They went into Minnesota and they did exactly what we said they were going to do. They laid an egg. And you could blame the offensive coordinator all you want, but at some point, the head coach needs to tell the offensive coordinator, run the damn ball. Run the damn ball. He didn't. He doesn't. And they don't. And as long as they're going to continue to not give the ball to their best player on offense and rely on this rookie quarterback that looks average to bad, this is going to be your outcome week in and week out. So they're playing Denver right now. I'm going to do my prediction right now. Broncos are going to win this game. Probably around a 27-17 final, but I won't be surprised if it's 34-0 Denver, because
interesting because it's 21-3 after the first.
Yeah, so 27-7 after the first. Denver's up that big.
First. Yeah, 2 2 pick sixes by Denver's defense.
27-17 or 34-10. I'll go 10. I'll make it 34-10. All right, that's what I'm going to do. All right. Look, I just went New York on everyone. I don't know why. Look, Minnesota is a good football team. I had them battling it out with Philly to go to the NFC Championship game. I had Philly winning because I think Wentz is a good quarterback. But at this point, I think the Vikings are probably the second best team in the NFC. Sorry, Saint fans, but I'm putting them higher than that. So, and historically, y'all can't beat Minnesota anyway, so don't even give me a hard time. Okay? You can't. You got your teeth kicked in '86. You got blown out in the '87 wildcard game. You had no chance in '88, and you never beat them. You rarely ever find a way to beat the Vikings. So let's not pretend like I'm saying anything out of the ordinary. Minnesota, they did everything they needed to do. They won that game. Latavius Murray had a day. Kirk Cousins looked good. The defense was on. Vikings rolled.
Yeah, Latavius Murray had a day because the Arizona Cardinals have the worst rush defense in the NFL. There's really not much to say. Minnesota won a game that was basically easy on their schedule. And, Cousins did what he had to do. Adam Thielen's a monster, another 100-yard game.
Unbelievable.
And, Murray went over 100 yards, too. Now, I don't think, Murray's all this in a bag of chips or anything like that. He's a backup running back now going against the worst rush defense. Anthony, you could have rushed for 100 yards against the Cardinals.
No. My belly might have gotten in the way of the ball.
That's funny.
Look, I'm broke.
My wife just shook her head and said, yeah, probably not.
Thanks, Janice. She's not wrong. Look, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. I know you're going to gloat. I was so brokenhearted for the Bengals in the way they lost this game. I don't appreciate Ben Worthlessberger running around saying, oh, the Bengals said this during the game. Dude, shut up. It's a game. Do you know how much trash is talked through the course of a football game? Put your tampon back in and go to the bathroom rather than doing that crap in front of everyone. No one wants to see that. I'm so done with Pittsburgh. The dirtiest team in football complaining about somebody being dirty? Shut up. And nothing was even done. It's not like, oh, he said he was going to take this guy out. Did he? Because I watched the game and I didn't see that happen. So there's a difference between saying something and then doing something. So drop the crap. You're garbage. Retire already. You benefit from a great team around you. I'm done with Pittsburgh. I've been done with Pittsburgh since about 1988. But what really irritates me about this is if we are going to water down this sport so much that we are going to react to somebody saying something on the football field of intense nature, what the hell are we doing? Last time I checked, we weren't playing tiddlywinks. So, forgive me for not being upset. If you heard the things, Ben Roethlisberger, that was said to me when I played football by the other team, you probably would go into your little snowflake huddle and go, and cry yourself a river, because you'd be mortified. Anyway, I'm going to start calling him Ben the Social Justice Warrior, not Roethlisberger. Take it away.
20 seconds into the second quarter, it's 28-3. Anyway, listen, I picked the Bengals to win. I thought this was a game that could have easily turned around their season. Apparently, they don't want to win the AFC North that easily. There's actually a lot in this game that people are making big deals out of. First, I'm going to get the easy one out of the way. A lot of people wanted a flag called on Smith-Schuster for the pick that he set to free Antonio Brown on the game-winning touchdown.
Which it should have been.
It was a football play. It was a football play, and it should have been flagged. Sorry, I don't agree with that.
Right. He was blocking the whole time.
Correct. Second, Vontaze Burfict needs to leave the league. This would be a benefit to everybody that he plays against. Here's what I can see happening. he had 3 questionable calls that a lot of the players on both sides actually were kind of not happy about. He actually sent Antonio Brown out for one play because he put a forearm into his helmet, and Brown had to go get checked out because the refs saw it and were like, okay, you need to go checked out, but no flag for you. And it happened on 2 other occasions as well. So I think he needs to take a breather, take a little bit of time away from the game and collect himself.
I'm going to go a step into that, Eric, real quick. I don't think he's a good linebacker anyway. I think the reason he does the crap that he does is because he gets beat and he gets pissed off. And the reason he gets beat is because he sucks.
He does. I'm going to make a very, very bold prediction right here, and I might get a holy crap. So I'm going to guess, and I have no source whatsoever, but 2 things. I can almost think that the Bengals hope he gets suspended again because they don't want to deal with the headache. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that won't happen. What I can see happening is the Bengals releasing Vontaze Burfict after the season, and you know where he would sign? And I could almost pinpoint where he would sign.
Pittsburgh.
He would sign in Pittsburgh. Absolutely. They're like, okay, well, we don't have Shazier anymore. We need somebody who can, at least tackle players. We can't get hurt when we're on offense because he's not playing against us. So unleash him against everybody else. I could totally see it happening.
Well, yeah, they're the dirtiest football team in the NFL. That's been their MO for years.
The Bengals right now.
No, the Bengals get caught. The Steelers and Seahawks, and I put them in that same category. They do blatant penalties all the time, and there's no flag ever, or rarely. So don't even get me started. They're dirty, and they've been dirty for a long, long time. Yeah, the Bengals are dirty too, but the Bengals are kind of like, all right, you're gonna punch me in the face, I'm gonna punch you in the crotch. It's a street fight. Sorry. So it's okay for the Steelers to do it, but then when another team does it, oh, they're dirty. No, they're being dirty back to dirty. I've said that to you, Eric. We've had this back and forth for a long time. This is not the first year we've done this, right?
Right.
So I understand where you come from. You understand where I come from. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm not saying I'm wrong either. And I don't even necessarily have a problem with the way these teams play football. It's the way it used to be played all the time. It's just in the watered-down version of today's NFL, it is what it is. But once again, a Bengals-Steelers game comes down to the last play of the game, and we're not talking about the game. You think the NFL's getting tired of this?
Right. Yeah, I think so. I think they are.
I mean, I can't blame them. This is a great game that no one's talking about. Look, I'm going to say 2 things here, and then I'll turn over to you because I know it's one of the teams you really like. I'm going to give a lot of credit here to Pittsburgh. This is not an easy environment to go on the road and win against, and this is not the same old Bengals team. I don't care what the score shows. There's a lot of announcers out there going, oh, see, that's the Bengals. No. Actually watch the game and shut your face hole. This was not the same Bengals. Pittsburgh stepped it up to another level and showed me something they haven't shown all year long. So I give a lot of credit to Pittsburgh here. They needed this win as much as the Bengals did, and they both played like they needed it and wanted it. And I cannot say enough good things about the way this game was, unfolding.
And credit Ben for playing a heck of a game on the road, too.
Yeah.
Because you don't see that too often.
No. You want me to go to the next game?
Go to the next game.
It's not much of a game. Chargers at Browns. I told you this could be a blowout. Although I told you Melvin Gordon would have the day that he did, but I had the score close, 24-17. You called the blowout. So I tip my hat to you on that one. But, look, the Chargers played great. They look like a good football team. They should have their own home. They shouldn't be sharing it with the Rams. I won't be surprised if they go back to San Diego. I think there's going to have to be amending of fences. But I said it before, and I'll say it again. I think they're going to go to Oakland. I think they're going to be the Oakland Chargers. So, but they're going to have to take a page out of Kroenke's book and actually buy their own stadium and not put it so much on the city. I think if they do that, they have a chance to rebuild. Anyway, Gordon had a great day. Chargers look great. Go E.
Yeah, the funny thing is that the Oakland Athletics are looking to build their own stadium, and they have a site picked out. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's anything in the works for keeping the Coliseum up and letting the Chargers play there until they can get maybe some revenue in and build their own stadium within 5 or so years after they're there.
Yeah.
If they end up going that way. Or maybe they just say, you know what, we're going to go back to San Diego and I'm going to build it out of my own pocket.
Maybe.
So that's always another possibility.
Or just agree to the site that San Diego picked out for you when the city was willing to pay that money.
Right.
So.
San Diego played a heck of a game. Tyrell Williams, have yourself a game, young man.
Yeah.
It's always somebody different for a Chargers receiver. 1 week it's Allen, another week it's Mike Williams, another week it's Antonio Gates, another week it's Melvin Gordon, another week it's Austin Eckler, another week it's Tyrell Williams. I mean, man, they have so much talent on offense, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Again, I'm telling you, they needed to win that game, and they knew that they still have a chance at the AFC West. You're looking at a playoff football team right now.
Oh, I agree.
I called it the last couple of weeks that they can win 10 wins. They can get 10 wins. The Chargers, I won't be surprised if they make noise in the playoffs too.
Well, you think the Browns make the playoffs?
No, Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I picked the Chargers to make it to the AFC Championship game. That's no surprise. Although, I don't know. I had them losing to Jacksonville. That might not be the case. Buffalo at Houston. This game was ridiculous. I did not expect this game to be as much of a struggle as it was. It really didn't help that Deshaun Watson didn't play his best football again. But I think Buffalo played inspired defense. And, everyone's favorite quarterback from if you are going against Buffalo, man, you're chanting. If you're a fan of the other team and you're playing the Bills, you're going, we want Peterman. You want him because he's going to throw you a touchdown every time. So Nathan Peterman comes in and does what Nathan Peterman does best. Throws a touchdown to the other team. And that was the game. All they need to do was incomplete the ball, punt it away, and they're going into overtime. So, good job.
So, Josh Allen has sprained ulnar collateral ligament. He is out weeks. They don't exactly have a timeline for him, but he is out weeks. Well, hello to your new Buffalo Bills starter against the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be Derek Anderson. He was the third quarterback and didn't dress. He's only been on the team 9 days. So he is actually going to start. They use the word mutiny in Buffalo if Peterman was going to start.
Wow.
Peterman's days are numbered, if not over, as an NFL quarterback.
Just cut him.
You almost have to. You can find somebody on the scrap pile. I mean, you might as well call Matt Leinart out of retirement.
Hey, he could throw sodas to old ladies really well.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But Buffalo was in it. Of course, it was 3 turnovers by Deshaun Watson. Again, didn't have a great game. Had a touchdown early to Hopkins, but everything really then settled down. I hope Derek Anderson channels his Nathan Peterman because I got the Colts defense going this week.
Well, speaking of defense, my defense did not have a day, as you like to say today. Look, there's a reason I picked the Vikings to beat the Rams, and there's a reason I'm picking the Bears to beat the Rams. And Eric, if I had known what you said, it shouldn't have mattered. I should have changed my pick after hearing what you said. When you have a struggle against this football team, the way they do, you almost have to err on the side of history. And once again, a better Bear team goes into an inferior Dolphin team, and the Dolphins find a way to win. Now, I think it's interesting that Brock Osweiler has had his first career start against the Bears with 3 different franchises and has beaten the Bears all 3 times. That is fascinating to me. And I think the Bears should have maybe drafted Brock Osweiler and just started him. Maybe he'd be undefeated. I don't know what to tell you. Look, I think Trubisky's a good quarterback. I think the Bears are fine. This was I think this was more of an impressive win for Miami than a tough loss for Chicago. I actually think the Bears are going to have a bounce back performance next week against New England in Chicago. I think they needed to lose a game to kind of get the reality slapped back into them a little bit. Because if they won this game, they would have conceded the Patriot game as a probable loss, but they'll play inspired and play well. And then they'd end up losing the next week because they would still think too highly of themselves. This kind of slapped the reality back into the Bears a little bit, and I think it's going to humble them and ground them for the Patriot game coming up. Look, I might be sugarcoating it, but the Bears are better than they played, and the Dolphins showed us that they're a better football team than we thought. With or without Brock Osweiler, that was a good performance. And I do want to say one last thing really quick. I feel for Kenyon Drake, and I love to see that kind of emotion, and I love to see a guy care that much. Because here's a guy that fumbled the game away at the 1-yard line for all intents and purposes, got a second chance, and delivered. So I'm glad to see that for Kenyon. I think it's an important thing to see. When somebody shows that much emotion, they care that much, you almost want to root for them unless you're a Bear fan. Obviously, I want the Bears to do well for E's sake, but my heart broke a little bit for Kenyon, seeing him cry on the sidelines like that. And getting to see him bounce that back, that was pretty cool to watch. Take it away, E.
Well, there's a lot of sugar on that coat then, because there's no way I'm sugarcoating any of this. And I will tell you, I will say one word about this game. Unacceptable. Unacceptable that you got no pressure on Osweiler. Unacceptable that you did not stack Osweiler. Unacceptable that he threw for 380 yards. And unacceptable that Albert Wilson had himself the careerist of career games with just basically 2 catches. A 43-yard touchdown and a 75-yard touchdown. Where's the defense? Unacceptable. I'm sorry. But there is no way, no how, not even a remote chance that the Bears have any remote possibility of beating the Patriots this weekend, because the Bears will only beat the Patriots in the only game that's ever mattered. And they've gotten smoked every other time. Literally have gotten smoked every other time. And everybody's like, the Bears have a chance against the Patriots. The Patriots just played Bears Senior on Sunday night. They're playing Bears Junior this weekend. Not even close. When you have Andy Reid and then you have a disciple of Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, and you pretty much have the same gimmicky offense, you already have your blueprint. Then you watch the game tape and say, oh, hey, we can throw these passes to whatever wide receiver we want to, and they're going to go all the way. Josh Gordon may have a huge game. Gronk, the last time the Bears played them in New England 4 years ago, of course the Bears were even horrible back then, Gronk had 3 scores. He could have had 10. Edelman, nobody's going to cover him. Then you have Dorsett, you have Cordell Patterson, and you could throw out James White and Sony Michel, and bring back Irving Fryar. The Bears aren't stopping them. They will not have Principal Kimura, so the only quarterback that they're going to have is going to be Kyle Fuller, and he can only cover one side of the field. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Listen, if the Bears score less than 20, consider it just a bad game. The Bears should be able to put up points. I'm not worried about the Patriots defense. It's the Bears defense and what they did in Miami to not be ready for this game.
Yeah. And
plus, you're going from Brock Osweiler or Tom Brady? Sorry, I don't buy it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you one thing about Miami's football stadium. One thing, and this is going to give you everything you need to know about when you go down and have to face the Dolphins. The home sideline is always in the shade, no matter what time of day it is. The visiting sideline is always in the sun. Take that. So what do you think about that?
That's great planning.
Great plan, exactly.
That's just smart.
So to me, it was a game they should have won. Yes, okay. They lost 2 games this year by a total of 4 points. They've been in both games. I've heard of conservative play calling before the Cody Parkey 53-yard field goal try, which was a bad snap. I don't find that it was that bad. So it's not like he mishit it. He just didn't turn his hips enough.
Yeah.
But, Frank Gore was The Bears were the last team to allow a 100-yard rusher, and it happened to come against Old Man Frank Gore. I mean, give Gore credit. 101 yards. It was tough. They were pretty much averaging over 4 yards a game. So, the Bears defense just didn't show up. Khalil Mack had a little bit of a injured ankle. He twisted it, a little sprain. So hopefully he'll be able to play, or else, there's going to be a lot of other Bears defensive line that need to step up.
Well, that's being brutally honest. All right. Well, to go from anger to sheer joy, the Rams at Denver, not an easy place to play. The Rams 8-5 lifetime against Denver, improved to 9-5. I thought they played well. They didn't throw the ball as much, because I don't think it was because Goff was struggling either. I just think that McVay kind of finally decided, hey, why throw it when we can run it like this? And Denver had no answer for Todd Gurley. And if I know anything about McVay, he's going to ride the hot train all the way to the end, and drop that sucker off in the toilet. So, and that's exactly what he did. He dropped it right off into the end zone, 3 times? So, sorry for that really gross analogy, by the way. That was unacceptable. And if you're having breakfast or dinner, I am sorry. But the point is, he always does this. He does a really good job in game of figuring out what is his best option and then riding it. I mean, Todd Gurley had a career day, 208 yards rushing. So I think that the Rams lose Kupp. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I got no inside information on this, but if I'm the Rams, I'm not going to be surprised if Kupp doesn't return until Seattle. When the Rams are at home.
Kupp is actually out this week.
I know he's out this week, but I think the Rams are going to hold him out against Green Bay, and I think the Rams should probably hold him out for that road game and just leave him home to heal against New Orleans, especially if they are 8-0 at that point. Yeah, you lose to Seattle. You don't want to lose to New Orleans, but at the same time, if you've got to go on the road in the playoffs, that's not a bad place to go. You're indoors. You've got a fast track with your team, and that defense, and you have film on them in that same stadium. Plus, you're going to get a feel for how loud it is. I don't think that's a bad option if it means we keep Kupp healthy for the duration of the season. What I don't want is Kupp comes back and he's fighting this injury all year long and is never really as good as he can be. And I don't want to risk a kid's career over the Green Bay Packers. So I don't know. But the Rams did a few things in this game that I thought were really, really impressive. They shut down Denver in the red zone. They overcame, for the longest time, the Rams were the team that they couldn't afford to make the mistakes or it would cost them. And if teams made mistakes against the Rams, it really wouldn't matter. And finally, the Rams are one of those teams where you have to play perfect football if you want to beat them. And, that's another, to me, it's another tick on that calendar of, okay, we feel like we're a Super Bowl championship caliber football team. Okay, well, you've got to have a fourth quarter comeback. Check. You've got to have a dominating performance against an inferior football team. Check. You've got to have that wow factor game. That was Minnesota. Check. Or San Diego. You've got to beat a good football team. Minnesota. Check. You've got to be able to go on the road and have somebody play a perfect game just to beat you in their home stadium. Well, Denver, check. So I think the Rams are checking all the boxes right now. And this game, to me, it's all about Todd Gurley, to be sure. But don't understate what Robert Woods did. Don't understate what that defense did. And more importantly, don't understate what the Rams D-line did, because they put an immense amount of pressure on Case Keenum. And it worked. I mean, I saw Keenum get pressure like that last year, or I saw Keenum get pressure from the Rams last year, but it wasn't from every angle. He was able to escape out and make a throw on the run to Thielen. He had no avenue of escape this go-round. He even sacked himself once. So I think this is a big, 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 big performance by the Rams defense that isn't getting a lot of attention. I know Denver moved the ball up and down the field, but they didn't punch it in when they needed to, and they didn't punch it in early on. And the Rams, they got to figure out the turnover thing. That's the next box for me for them to check. You got to get turnovers. They're not getting a lot of those, but they're not having to because of their offense. Go ahead, E.
All right, I'm going to say something that you or the Rambling may not like. Jared Goff is not your MVP currently. When I say currently, that honor goes right now to Patrick Mahomes. You can't argue with what he's doing. And Goff hasn't done what you hoped he would have done in the last couple of weeks. And I don't think you lose the MVP in 1 or 2 weeks. He can come back and obviously he can recapture it. Second, you called it. You said it was the Gurley game. I even agreed with you. It should have been the Gurley game. And yeah, even though Goff's numbers don't show it, Gurley's numbers do. And when you have that threat of the passing game with Cooks and I think I even saw Higbee getting a catch or two.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Woods and whatnot. The threat is always there. But Gurley did what he had to do to really put the team on his back, and he did. He did. He had. It was the second week in a row that the Broncos gave up 200 yards on the ground, 200 yards or more on the ground. And I don't think the Broncos are going to do that this week against Arizona because, well, yeah, they're up 28-3. That's why.
Nice.
So, it was probably a lot closer of a score than one would have anticipated, but it was still showing a lot of grit and determination by the Rams to come out with a victory out of 10. And that's what they did. That's what they needed to do. So, you can't argue when you win. It might not always be pretty, and it might not always be up to your expectations, but a win is a win. And when you can go 6-0 and eventually, be the last remaining unbeaten team, the 72 Dolphins should be nervous.
I mean, you called that early on.
I did.
So
I did, and I know they had a tough game against the Seahawks, but there was a post that ESPN made, and I follow them on Facebook, and they're like, "Who's going to beat them? Who's going to beat the Rams?" And I'm looking, I'm like, "Well, the Packers aren't going to beat them. All they're going to do is just force Aaron Rodgers out to the outside. If they can get Sue and Donald up the middle, and Rodgers ain't going to skip them."
no.
I don't think the Bears are going unless the Bears play on skates and it's icy at Soldier Field and the Rams don't bring their skates in, or maybe it's as cold as it was in '85. I don't know. Maybe the Bears have a chance. Or actually, I should say as cold as January of '86.
Yeah.
But yeah, unless like I said, unless Goff and Gurley have one of the worst games and a defense comes completely prepared and plays flawless defense, that they can get the Rams off their game and pull out a W. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, right now, I agree. The Rams are playing complete football. And like I said, they're checking all the boxes. Now, this is another one where I'm going to take a bow. I told you Baltimore ain't going nowhere. And I don't think that loss they didn't lose to Pittsburgh. They beat them, right?
Yeah, they beat Pittsburgh.
But they lost. It was last week. Who did they play last week? The week before, I mean. Let me look. It was. Sorry for the long delay. Oh, Cleveland. They lost to the Browns. Yeah, I knew that they were going to have a bounce back game. That defense is for real. Flacco's playing out of his mind this year. He's playing a lot like he did the year they went to the Super Bowl. They have a running game. They had a dominant performance against Tennessee. And it was almost 21-3. Ironically, would have been a score I would have predicted, just the wrong game. But it was a rainstorm coming in. It was a sloppy game. But the Titans, they didn't have an answer for Baltimore. And Baltimore did exactly what they needed to do to get a big lead. And then they sat on it. And they just milked the clock and ended the game, knowing that Tennessee had no opportunity at all to move the football against that defense. I'm telling you. Baltimore is making the playoffs this year. They are a legitimate football team. They are not going anywhere. There will be 2 teams out of the North. I'm thinking 1 team out of the East at this point, 1 team out of the South, and maybe 2 teams out of the West in Kansas City and San Diego. I could see the playoffs breaking down that way. The Ravens are good, and they had a bad game on the road against Cleveland, who's playing inspired football, but they're not going anywhere, Eric. And I meant when I said that. And, they have a big test this week coming up against New Orleans. But it's in Baltimore, and I think the Ravens have a puncher's chance. Your go.
Yeah, kudos on the Baltimore call. I thought Tennessee would actually come out with a little bit more fight. Instead, I'm going to give you the stat the second time again, and because I told you this before after the game was over, but Marcus Mariota had 10 completions. Marcus Mariota was sacked 11 times. Yo, it's football fans unheard of. I'm sorry, but that's just funny to me. And kudos to the Ravens for what they did, because luckily I was going up against the Titans defense. They only had a pick and they couldn't get to Flacco, and the Ravens are running out the clock and sacking Mariota and whatnot. Life's great.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I got Winston putting up 42 friggin' points against me, the frickin' frack.
Yeah.
And Goff puts up a glorious 8 single digits.
Anyways, yeah. So give the Ravens credit for everything. I mean, they just went down to Tennessee and they got a win that they should have.
Yep. Jacksonville at Dallas, boy. The Jaguars better fix this problem ASAP.
I watched this game.
You go into Dallas and you make the Cowboys look like the 92 version. The Jaguars look like an expansion team playing in its first game. That's how bad they played. Fournette, you better get right, and you better get right quick. Because the Jags are woeful. Take it away.
Dak Prescott looked great. I mean, it was a shell of the Jaguars' defense from last year. Dak Prescott looked amazing. Granted, it's one game. Cole Beasley looked great. It's like the Cowboys found new life. But again, it's one game. Elliott was okay, but man, it was all about Dak and Cole Beasley and the Cowboys defense. They were tremendous. Bortles again looked like Bortles early from last year, and I don't know what to say about Jaguars, man. Maybe Shad Khan should really rethink about his bid for Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, right. Because that seems to be where they play ball.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jaguars defense got shredded. That was rare to say last year.
Yeah, I don't remember saying it. All right, I'll let you do the good because I'm going to do the bad. But I'll let you start. Chiefs at Patriots, Sunday Night Football.
The good, huh?
Yeah, I know you're going to say good things. Huh?
It was a great game, actually. It was fun. The first half was exactly what you cannot do against New England. And if you watched any of this game, and I know Anthony, you're not a fan of the Patriots. I don't know how much you watched.
Enough.
But in the first half, the Chiefs did what you can't do. They kicked field goals instead of scored touchdowns. They scored touchdowns when it got later in the game in the second half. They made it a game, and at halftime they were down 24-9. I figured it would be more of an offensive display than a defensive display. And a defensive player, actually came out and said, I didn't want to get flagged. That's why I didn't hit Brady, and he scored a rushing touchdown. This is what the NFL is coming to, where guys are actually coming out saying, I'm not going to do my job because I'm afraid I'm going to get flagged. Of course, you have the Tom Brady rule where if you fart within 15 miles of him, you get a flag. So
that was an SPD. Who did it? I'm flagging the whole defense.
Anyways.
Look,
so,
I'll tell you. Go ahead.
The second half came along, and the Chiefs found new life. And Patrick Mahomes to Tyreek Hill is ridiculous. tandem. All you got to do is throw it because you're not going to overthrow them. But I will say this. Before I let you go into what you're going to do. And I'm not sure if you were actually going to talk about this or not, but Tyreek Hill scored a 75-yard touchdown, and then as he got close to the stands, he got a beer bat, and he wanted the fan. It was from a Patriot fan, and he wanted the fan to actually get arrested for it or get charged for it, and they are actually doing it. So it's nice to see that security personnel is actually going to take time to do that thing.
Are you kidding me?
But I swear to you, that stuff shouldn't happen.
Okay, I disagree. You're going into the road. You're going on the road. You're going against a team. I mean, this is the same city in New England that throws batteries at Yankee players in the outfield and no one's outraged. So, a beer? It's liquid. It's the end. I mean, look, I'm not condoning players throwing things onto the field, but I'm also not going to insist that they get arrested for doing it.
Not arrested, charged.
For what's the charge?
Actually, throwing stuff on the field, I don't know, but what they said was they worked with security personnel, actually worked with local law enforcement, and that fan has been kicked out, never to be allowed back in again.
I have nothing good to say about this. The NFL's totally wrong here. The security's totally wrong here. I understand if you find the guy scolding him and saying, hey, don't do that again, or this is going to happen. But, I mean, I'm sorry. Did the beer get in your eye? Did it get inside your vaginal canal? Like, what are we talking about here? It's liquid. You have a uniform on, a helmet and shoulder pad. It's not even getting on your real clothes. Here's the thing, Eric. The NFL players or fans, they're passionate. It's their only outlet. I'm not condoning throwing things onto the field. I'm not. But at the same time, you're selling beer at a football game. Let me just pause right there. Beer at a football game. Men get emotional. Men get angry. The real question is, why are you selling beer in the fourth quarter? Who's really to blame here? So you're going to punish the player or the fan for doing little to zero damage to the construct of the game, but officials can make penalties that completely change the outcome of a game, and they're allowed to keep reffing. But this fan isn't allowed to go into the game and ever watch the Patriots play again in Foxborough? Do you not see the problem I have here? Throw a beer, banned for life. Throw a game, ref in the playoffs. Really? What's more damaging to the integrity of the game? And okay, and I might be wrong here, and I probably am. Was this the first time in the history of the National Football League? Hell, was this the first time this year somebody threw something onto the field?
Probably not.
No. So we're going to ban this player, this fan for life.
Let's ban all Eagles fans who threw snowballs at Santa.
Right? Let's ban the Giant fans that pelted the Chargers in the helmet when they were running down the sidelines. I mean, this is stupid. This is beyond dumb. You have a uniform on. I have no respect for athletes that cry and whine about something as minor as that. So, I'm not even going to waste time on this. Hey, Patriot fan, you're out there. Look, the Rams are recruiting. Why don't you ban those softies and those snowflake losers and come to LA and root for the Rams? We got plenty of room on the bandwagon because people still don't want to get on. And why not leave one dynasty that's about to die and join one that's about to be born? I have no patience for this. And if I was the owner of the Patriots, I would say, okay, I want the fan's name. And then I'd give them lifetime season tickets in the suites. That's the way I would handle it if I was Kraft. And I'd have him write a letter to Tyreek Hill every single week and mail it to him. Mail it to him. Oh, here you go, Tyreek. It's just me again. Maybe have a picture of the beer landing on his face and send it to him every week. Just a reminder. I'm in Foxborough. I'm watching the game. Give me a friggin' break, dude. You're going to ban the fan for life. I probably had a different take than you were expecting on that. Here's the ugly. And it's not that. That's not even, let alone ugly. It's not even the you. The ugly for me is this. I knew the Chiefs were going to lose this game because Kansas City can get pressure on the quarterback from the outside. And with Tom Brady, you're not going to beat Tom Brady that way because it enables him to move up in the pocket, which is when he's at his best. And the Chargers, or the Chiefs rather, they had no stunts at all into the middle of that offensive line. I counted twice that the Chiefs put pressure up the middle on Tom Brady, and both of them led to punts. Both those drives led to punts. So I'm not concerned about the Chiefs because their defensive coordinator is insane. He does the same thing over and over and over and over and week to week to week to week to play to play to play, game to game to game, which is basically week to week to week. He doesn't change. There's no modification of his game plan. Try that against Sean McVay. We'll see how that works out for you. I will give credit to Mahomes. He stepped up in the second half and did what he needed to do. It just wasn't enough. As far as him being the MVP candidate, look, you go on the road and you look, it's a 3-point win, but it's a different 3-point win. I get what you're saying, Eric. I do. But I think I gave Goff the MVP lead after week 4. As of right now, through week 6, I agree. It's Mahomes. At the moment, you could even throw Todd Gurley into the mix. I think he's earned his way into that conversation.
Oh, the media's already gushing over Brady for MVP.
Oh, God, I don't want to talk about that. That's so beyond stupid. And it's not going to matter anyway because next week when the Patriots lose at Chicago, Tom Brady's going to be back not in the conversation. A couple strip sacks and they're good. Look, as far as this game goes, Mahomes did not only what he needed to do, but he makes unbelievable plays under duress at key moments in the game. He's a great quarterback. He's proving to be a great quarterback. Now, it's 1 year. We'll see if he can repeat this next year when people get film on him and if he gets better over the next couple of seasons. But he's proven to have himself a really good year. And I agree. He should be the MVP leader right now. But Goff, in another couple of weeks, he's got San Francisco, which he could have a big game again. He's got Green Bay, who I think he could have a big game against. But for me, it's week 9 at New Orleans. If Goff can have himself a day there, I think he retakes the lead in the MVP talk, especially if the Rams improve to 9-0 after that game. So I give all the credit in the world to Mahomes. He's earned it. The Chiefs look great, but they are 5-1, and the Rams are 6-0, and we'll see how this works out heading into Week 11 when the Rams play the Chiefs in Mexico City. Now, speaking of those Green Bay Packers, San Francisco at Green Bay, I want to say 2 things here. San Francisco played out of their mind and better than I thought, and that's the second week in a row we could say that about Beathard, or the second time in 3 weeks. It seems like the 49ers step it up when they play better competition because they look like crap against Arizona. But they look good against San Diego, and they look good here. I don't know if that's a product of Green Bay being a bad football team or not as good as we think, or if San Francisco is just elevating their play. It's the Rams 49ers next week, guys. It's a rival. We are 66-69-3 against the 49ers. We need to sweep them this year just to get within a game of tying them for the all-time series. And we have not beaten the 49ers, period, as the Los Angeles Rams since 1990. I think it was week 9 or week 8 or 9, when Cleveland Gary was the running back for the Rams. We got a problem in LA with this football team. And if the Niners play like they did against Green Bay, it's going to be a tough game. And it's our 3rd straight road game. And the only saving grace is We have not left the Western Hemisphere of the United States yet this year, which is really good for traveling and energy and stamina and all that. But they need to step it up against the Niners because the Niners are stepping it up against better opponents. So that was my takeaway from San Francisco. They are fighting even though they're in a hole that's 20 feet deep. They don't care. They're still trying to get out. As far as Green Bay goes, is this the Packers we're going to see all year where they scrape claw and find a way to win it at the end? It reminds me of the Detroit Lions the year they made the playoffs for the first time ever, where they had all those close games that they just managed to win because of Stafford's ability to lead, a come-from-behind victory. Or the 98 Cardinals. I don't know if that's what we're getting here, but it's starting to feel that way. Like, you're not going to blow Green Bay out, but you have a good chance of beating them if you can just make the plays at the right time. Your take.
I agree that the 49ers put out of their mind. They put up 30 points. It was actually unexpected, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Beathard looked good. Let me rephrase this. Beathard and the Niners looked good for 3 to 3.5 quarters. Yeah. As soon as the fourth quarter and halfway through the fourth quarter set in, you knew that they were lost. And you already knew and had the sense that Green Bay was going to come back and win. Yeah. It was just the 49er play calling. They got conservative. They got short. Beathard couldn't hit an out route, holding on the ball too long, taking a sack when he shouldn't have. When they were doing their best they could to try to run out some of the clock to leave a lot less time, but when you can't convert first downs when you need to, that just gives Rodgers more time that he needs, and he doesn't need any more time than you can give him.
So, I got
Green Bay on the other.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say Green Bay on the other hand. Listen, they were down Cobb and Allison for the wide receivers, and have Davante Adams and 2 rookies. When you cannot cover Davante Adams because he's your only legit threat outside of maybe Jimmy Graham for 5 to 10 yards, you have problems on defense. I don't know what it is about not being able to cover one guy. You have 11 guys on the field. Rush 3, cover a running back, have your safeties double cover the best wide receiver, and don't let Rodgers scramble for 21 yards like they did in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Dude's on one leg and he ran for 21 yards. He ran faster than majority of the running backs.
I know, isn't that crazy?
It was sick. And, of course, Mason Crosby comes back from a 1-for-5 day to hit all 4 of his field goals. I don't know if it was that the 49ers should never have been in that game, or if the Packers had no business winning a game that they should have lost. But I think, if you get a lead on the Packers, put your foot on their throat and don't let them back in.
Yeah.
Because for a while, the 49ers held a 4 to 7 point lead. And it was like, you know what? They have a chance. Wait a second. No, they don't. Rodgers is the quarterback on the other side.
Yeah. No, exactly. Look, I want to ask you a question. So I can't say her name, but you know who you are. You were at the game. One of my students, she's a freshman. Could you imagine your first ever game at Lambeau Field is Monday night, and that's the game you get?
I mean, really, is there any better of a place to watch a game than in one of the most historic football sites in the NFL?
I can't imagine being a fan of that team, getting to see Aaron Rodgers play live in that stadium, and to have an Aaron Rodgers comeback of epic proportion in that setting. Man, I hope that you enjoyed it as much as we think you probably did. And I just want to say to you, hey, congrats to your Pack. They played great, and I'm happy for you that they won that game in your opportunity to see them live in their home stadium, because Lambeau is hallowed ground, and to see a game there, it's like seeing a game in Yankee Stadium before they tore it down, or Wrigley today. Or even, Fenway Park. It's monumental. So congrats, I'm happy for you. And thank you for beating the 49ers, because anytime the Niners lose, I'm happy. Eric, anything you want to say in parting?
Yes. We covered the Giants 2 shows ago, and the Giants we're going to cover the Giants again coming up. But I want you guys, when you get a chance, watch some highlights from the Oregon-Washington game last week in Oregon. And one of those 2 quarterbacks are going to be the quarterback for the Giants.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with either of them, but take a look. Watch some passes. Watch how they play. Watch how they throw, their accuracy. I'm saying it right now that either Browning or Abear is going to be the quarterback of the Giants next year.
Probably. All right. Well, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
Go Rams.
And go Bears.
And horns up.
Bear down.
See you next week. Or we'll see you for the pregame in a couple of days.